Hey everybody, this is Colin podcast about real estate and welcome to show number 2. Today I'm talking with a friend of mine based here in Tampa, Florida called Clark Lunt. Clark runs a successful wholesaling and property flipping business. They regularly do 40 to 50 plus deals per year for the last 5 years, and he's got a lot of interesting insights and some wisdom to put out there. We had a pretty wide ranging conversation which started off talking about some of the misconceptions people have about the role wholesalers play in the real estate market. We also talked about how useless I am at negotiating directly with distressed sellers and some of the sales techniques and some of the training Clark and others like him have had to do it right. So tune into that. We also talk about how Clark originally started sourcing deals back in 2015 and 16 and how he's doing it now, and how the power of data analytics is presenting all sorts of opportunities and challenges to people in the real estate industry. We talk about how business in the Tampa Bay area has been in March, April, May, and June, and some surprising advantages to wholesalers from working remotely that I wasn't aware of that Clark shares with us. We also talk about some advice Clark and I have for people that are seeking to become wholesalers or seeking to start out at real estate investing. Clark also has some really good actionable tips out there for people that are trying to find and latch onto a mentor who might teach them a little bit about the real estate market in a more low risk kind of way. So tune in. I think you'll enjoy the conversation. Clark, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on, Colin. I look forward to catching up and talking shop.
Yeah, no, it's good. I remember interviewing you about 3 years ago on another show, and we had a great conversation. I'm looking forward to bringing it up to date and learning about what you're doing in the market. I know you've been going from strength to strength. But for people who don't know about you, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you got started and where you are today.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Probably a little has changed since we chatted last 3-4 years ago. Markets changed, our business has changed a little bit, but my name is Clark, and my company is Easy Sale Home Buyers. We are a company that focuses. We're like a lot of these companies where we do some wholesale, we do some rehabbing, and we do some rental properties. So it just kind of depends on the deal and how much inventory we have as to what we're going to exit out with. We've been in business now since the beginning of 2015 full time. So I've been in real estate investing full time for, I guess, 5.5 years now. For the most of that, I owned a real estate franchise, and I just recently exited out of that and kind of started my own show. So it's been fun to kind of be able to run it myself and not have some of the restrictions you have with the real estate franchise. So yeah, I've been doing it 5.5 years now. Still doing it, still love it. With the market changing, I feel like daily now with everything that's going on, it keeps you on your toes and forces you to constantly be looking forward to what's next.
Yep. And I know you've been a busy guy and you've accomplished a lot. Can you give us a quick idea of roughly how many deals you think you've done, or the value of the deals you've done in the last 5 years, so people have an idea of your
Sure.
experience?
I think that I haven't added it up in a while, but it's somewhere over the 5 years of a combination of all three, of wholesales, retails, and rentals, somewhere in the neighborhood, probably getting close to 200 now. So we've kind of stayed constant at about 40 deals a year for the past 3 or 4 years. So that's in terms of sales volume. It's probably around 2 to 2.5 a year, 2.5 million. So, whatever that multiplies out to. So
Pretty impressive, man. That's a lot of deals. 40 deals a year is no joke. I've done a lot of work with wholesalers. I've done some work with you. The experience with you has always been positive. The experience with other wholesalers has been overwhelmingly positive in nearly every case as well. But I've found that some people still have a misconception about wholesalers and the role they play in the real estate chain. And for me, they do have a very important role to play. But can you tell some of our listeners why a person would want to work with a wholesaler in the first place rather than just working with a realtor or selling it themselves or working with one of these iBuyers?
yeah, I mean, wholesalers, I feel, have an importance in this industry. I also feel like they kind of have a bad rap because they kind of have the I don't know, the reputation that, you drive around, you see the sign on the road that says, we buy houses quick, or such and such deal at 123 Jones Street. And, a lot of times people don't really believe those signs or things like that. So I think it's for me personally, it's my job to when I talk to sellers, to be able to know going in that they may have a negative mentality about it. So it just is something that helps for me to go over and above to try and make sure that they're treated fairly, and that if it's a deal that works for them, that they see everything. There's no surprises, things like that. But in terms of working with a wholesaler, to answer your question, and work with a wholesaler versus like a real estate agent, most of the deals that we're going to be wholesaling are probably going to need more repairs. So it's going to be tough to get just a traditional loan on these properties. So you're going to have either your own cash or better someone else's cash, that whether it's a private money lender or a hard money lender, to help you buy these. But you're going to get them at a better deal. I have not been successful in working with real estate agents to be able to buy deals, because it's always the same thing, is that there's just not enough meat on the bone. It's too close to retail. And even when I make offers at numbers that have to make sense for me with realtors, they look at me like I'm a 10-headed monster, because they're like, why would you even offer that? That's way too low. Because typically they don't have a lot of experience in actually going through a full renovation to be able to bring it through to fruition. And then when they see the actual margin at the end of the day. So I think that most realtors are more on the retail side, and that's fine. And they can do that, and they probably do it very well. But if you're actually looking to get a somewhat of a deal, you're going to have to either go direct to seller or going to go through a wholesaler, more than likely, at least in my experience, to be able to get a profitable deal. Because at the end of the day, we want to buy it for, buy low, sell high, right? And I feel like you have a better opportunity going through a wholesaler to do that.
I agree. And look, if you're one of those people that own a house that hasn't been updated in 30 plus years, that has a roof that's leaking, that has an overgrown crazy shed, that has some unpermitted garage or something, a realtor just isn't going to help you with that.
No.
Certainly a homeowner isn't going to help you with that, or even a renter. So you're going to have to get someone involved that can bring cash to the table, buy it as is, warts and all. And wholesalers are one of the main people that do that in the industry. And if there were no wholesalers, there would be a lot less transactions, and a lot of people that wanted to sell their house and get out and get their cash out wouldn't be able to do it. So, and it's funny the way you say that, because I have bought a lot of houses from realtors over the years, and you're right, a lot of them will look at you like you're a 10-headed monster. But I found that if you insist, just give the offer to your client. I mean, they're basically obliged as realtors to submit all offers to their clients anyway. They often get accepted. Not often, but a lot of offers that the realtor thought would never get accepted do get accepted. Personally speaking, I'm more of a spreadsheet data guy. I've had a lot more success in foreclosure auctions and other types of auction sites and realtors than I have dealing directly with sellers. I've done a lot of deals with wholesalers, and we've done okay out of them, maybe made, 12, 15%. And when I see what the wholesaler price was, sometimes you think, oh, gee, I could have made 20% or 25%. And every now and again, I'll say, I'll try and target sellers directly myself. I'll try and set up a We Buy Houses website. I'll do some marketing, get a few leads. And I've done this multiple times, and I'm just terrible at it. I'm just useless at negotiating with sellers. It's not one of my strengths. I've recognized it as one of my weaknesses, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to focus on my strengths instead of trying to focus bringing my weaknesses up to a high standard that someone else has. But can you talk us through some of the negotiation methods you use to reach realistic prices with these sellers? Because I'm sure 19 times out of 20, when you go to meet somebody, they have a price in their head and you have a totally different price in your head. And I know it's very difficult to try and meet in the middle or somewhere. So what techniques do you use? I know you've become quite skilled at it.
I would disagree a little bit. I would say it's 20 out of 20 that they have a price in their head. So it's 20 out of 20 that they have a price in their head. And when you ask them how much they want for the property, about 18 times out of 20, they're going to say, I don't know. So, it's something that I would say that the thing that most people miss in terms of negotiation is it's not a negotiation about the the number saying, hey, you want 100, I want it for 50. What, and then the negotiation starts. The negotiation is something that starts the minute that you make the first contact with them, whether it's on the phone, whether it's on a Zoom call, whether it's in person. I bought most of my houses in person, a few on the phone, a few via email, text, but for the most part, they're in person. They're sitting down in the living room, and at the end of the day, if you, it's very simple. Is you have to have a sales process, and if you don't have a sales process and you go in and wing it, then you're never going to be able to truly consistently close deals the way you need to. So, like for example, I go to sales training every Tuesday. Actually, like going physically drive, sit, like going back to like college, basically, and it's because there's a whole process that we've kind of learned to go through, and you have to. It's like anything, you have to practice. It's like playing sports. You don't just like go into the game if you haven't played in 6 months. So it's something where you want to practice, weekly, daily, whatever that looks like, so that when you're meeting with these sellers, talking to them on the phone, it doesn't matter. Is that it's the same. So if you listen to a discussion that I would have with a seller, it's going to be very similar. The structure is going to be very similar on every single call. So that it's important because at the end of the day, it's not a negotiation of the numbers. It's trying to find out if you have a solution to help them out of a problem that they have. And part of that is part of the sales process is finding out if they even have a problem at all. And there's plenty of times where they don't have a problem. They don't need you. So there's no reason to take a tour of their house. There's no reason to, go through the whole thing because they don't need you. The market that we work in is probably 5 to 10. What would you say the amount of people that are selling a house that are good for an investor is what, 5-10%? What would you say?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be in that range.
So
Most most
there's
sales are one
90.
homeowner to another homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's 90+% that are good for the realtor. They'll repaint the pink bedroom beige. They'll patch the roof and then they'll list it. And so part of that process is going through and understanding, are you part of the 90% or are you part of the 10%? And if you're part of the 90%, then I'd be more than happy to refer out a painter, a guy that knows how to put pavers down in the front yard, and give a realtor referral and move on. So I think that it's something where you have to have a sales process, and you got to just like going into the basketball game, is that you have to practice. And part of that is continuing to stay consistent with what your sales process is, and then follow it. Because if you go in and everything is different each time, why didn't you buy that house? Well, I don't know. But if you're following the process that's tried and true, then I think that you're going to have a better chance to succeed ultimately.
No, it makes complete sense to me that you have a system in place that's been designed by people that have learned it through hundreds and hundreds of deals and have tried to crystallize it into a number of steps that you take. And that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't have that information when I was trying to convince people to sell, or I was probably thinking of completely the wrong way of doing it. But you live, you learn. But look, you've been doing this 5 years now, which is a reasonably long period of time. I mean, how did you find your deals back in 2015 and 2016, and how did you find them in 2018, 2019, 2020? Has it transitioned a lot from sending postcards to doing fancy Facebook campaigns, or is it mostly still pretty old school? Or what's changed in your world in terms of sourcing?
I think that the only thing, it's a good question because but in 15, 16, when I first kind of got started, it was definitely heavy postcards. Probably a little bit of like SEO, PPC, internet kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was heavy postcards, and we did a little bit of TV just because we were a larger real estate franchise, so we had a fairly large marketing budget to work with.
Mhm.
I think what's evolved into now is um, is really trying to focus on being able to get the best data to be able to understand who may be in a position that needs to sell. And so to do that, you have to be able to track down. I mean, if you've got a house and there's code violations on it, and you had to evict the tenant, and those are things that would say, well, you know what, if I don't have to go and fix all the stuff up, and I don't, I just evicted the tenant, I don't want to go fix it up and then try and put in a new tenant, and that's going to cost money, and then I got to screen for the tenant. So being able to find points that make sense to be able to talk to someone at that certain point in their ownership of that house is such a big deal. I think the days of just saying, all right, well, if they don't live there and they've owned it 10 plus years, let's just send them a postcard. I just don't think that. I think that's not spending your marketing money wisely. So if you're able to really pinpoint and say, all right, they're going to have 3 or 4 things that they need that would make sense for them to want to sell, and then I need to talk to them, and I'm going to call them, or I'm going to text message them, or I'm going to, mail them a letter, do all 3. I think that's kind of where everything is moving to. I'm not as big. I'm not as big into, like, I pay someone to do my pay-per-click for me and my SEO and Facebook retargeting and all that stuff. So I don't really speak that language, but that's important too, because everyone's on their phone, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now. So, if they Google something, then they're going to see an ad on their Facebook, 30 seconds later when they log on to Facebook. So I think it's important to be able to just stay with the times and constantly be asking what's the newest and latest and greatest thing. And it's not easy, but it's where you're going to get your best data points. And you're going to be the likelihood that you're talking to someone that has more motivating reasons to sell is better. If they have more motivating reasons to sell, obviously it makes that discussion a little bit easier as opposed to the 90%, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's always been about, is spending your marketing dollars to try and find the people that are most motivated. And 5-10 years ago, that was about sending postcards to people that might have been in pre-foreclosure or lis pendens or late on their tax bills, or they're recently divorced or recently evicted. And that's still the case. But what's changing is that the data sets available to target them are getting more and more sophisticated. And you need to get more sophisticated, right, too. And you need to be keeping up with the types of tools available. And some of them, obviously, you don't have to figure it out yourself. There's companies that have sprouted up that have enabled you to use these tools to micro-target the types of people, because you don't want to go out, with a shotgun, just kind of shooting everybody and firing postcards at everybody. You want to be very targeted with your marketing dollars. There's no point in sending 100 pieces of information out there if you can send 10 instead, and send those 10 times. And I think the tools available to get that targeted marketing are much more sophisticated than they were 5-10 years ago. And probably, newer, smaller people operating on their own that are kind of open to that and savvy to that can probably run rings around some of the older, bigger guys that are kind of stuck in the old ways of doing thousands and thousands of marketing campaigns. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some new wholesaling companies and new kids on the block just coming out of nowhere and kind of blitzing it, because they've gotten so good at targeting people and targeting motivated sellers. But look, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We've had a crazy amount of chaos for the last 3 months. I mean, from the beginning of March, I guess, and now we're in the middle of June. It's been one of the most disturbing kind of quarters in business in my kind of 20-year career, and I'm sure yours, and veterans with more experience than us as well. So let us know, have you still been doing deals these past 3 months? And if you have, what kind of deals? And can you maybe talk us through a couple of them and how you dealt with the social distancing and the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So we, as I exited from the real estate franchise to kind of start my own shop, it kind of happened during the beginning, or maybe just before the beginning of the pandemic. So it kind of gave me an opportunity to work on my business as opposed to in it, which is very hard for me because I kind of have shiny red ball syndrome. So I get distracted really easy. If a seller calls in and they want to sell their house, I'll drop everything and go drive an hour to wherever they live. But we've done a couple, or we've done, I don't know, 8 or 10 deals in the last couple months. And I thought that people were going to be very, very opposed to letting me come into their house. And for the most part, they really haven't. They've been, hey, just come in. We don't shake hands. We do the elbow, the professional elbow. I'm not really sure what it's called, but I still can't get used to. I was at the bank yesterday, and we were all elbowing each other, and in these professional settings. But anyways, I guess that's the new norm. So I haven't seen a lot of pushback from sellers in terms of, they're a little bit more hesitant, but they're still willing to meet. They're sitting on one side of the living room and I'm sitting on the other. We still take the tour. I think that the biggest change that we've seen, which I think is been a huge positive, is people are a little bit more willing to jump on a Zoom call, get on a FaceTime, maybe do a phone call and understand to say, hey, look, we'd like to kind of make you an offer on Zoom. If you could kind of guide me through with your phone, kind of do a virtual walkthrough. And they're more open to that. Even older folks that maybe would never know what Zoom was in the past. They've it's something where now they're Zooming with their family and their kids and everyone. So they're used to it. So it's not as big of a deal now to ask for that. But it's helped us a lot because we've become more efficient in terms of, it's not going to be quite the same as me and you sitting in your office having this conversation, but we're not losing a lot we still can see each other. If I say something and you laugh, I can tell you thought it was funny, or I can tell you thought it wasn't funny at all. So you don't lose a ton. And so that's been beneficial to our business because now it's forced us to say, all right, how do we get stronger, leaner? And we're able, instead of maybe making 2 offers a day, we can make 4 because I'm not having to drive all over the place. And, I'm able to still, if I need to show someone, hey, you said that the house down the road sold for this, did you know how nice that house looked? And here, let me share my screen real quick and I'll show you, is this the house you were talking about? And, so I've got like 80 to 90% and I'm doing it right from my desk right here. And we're not having to worry about passing coronavirus back and forth or anything like that. All that stuff goes away. We're not wearing masks. We're not, muffled like this. So I think that's been the biggest change in terms of going forward. And I think it's going to change the way we do business at the end of the day. So in terms of deals you mentioned, I mean, we've had a couple rehabs. We've had no problems with contractors. So we've, taken 2 to 3, 4 weeks for our rehabs. We're trying not to do any huge $50K kind of renovations, more in like the 20 to 25, paint carpet, maybe do a new bathroom or something. But other than that, we're still able to wholesale deals. There's still buyers out there. I just have to be a little bit more careful that if I want to prepare myself that there's a chance that the buyer could fall out and I have to step in at the last minute and buy the deal. So I just have to be prepared for that because, we made the deal with the seller that they're going to get this much for their house on this date. And that's going to happen whether I wholesale it or I buy it myself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I'm delighted to hear that you're using the disadvantage thrown at the coronavirus to your advantage, where you're able to now have Zoom calls with sellers instead of driving an hour to Lakeland to view a house somewhere and then driving another hour to South Tampa. That you're able to just do it on a phone call at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And you're right, people are using Zoom calls that would have never been technology savvy before. My parents are doing Zoom calls, for example, and they wouldn't have had a clue how to do it before. We've, funny enough, we've started doing that for the people that we're selling houses to, that some of them might have come to view the homes, whereas now they can't. So in addition to giving them the professional photos, now we've done Matterport virtual tours, which is another way of letting them walk around the house and look up and down and into corners, and little tricks like that make a big difference. And just like I said, we've been selling our houses at a relatively normal pace. And, to be honest, so far prices in the Tampa real estate market have been holding up remarkably well. I mean, they're extremely resilient, especially in our middle class, affordable kind of price range, which is usually $140,000 to $170,000. I mean, do you have any idea, is our prices going to stay high? I mean, is it because inventory is so tight? Is it interest rates are so low? Is it because there's so much government and federal money out there propping asset values up? What's your take on the real estate market, whether we're at the top of the curve or we're not at the top of the curve?
the $1 million question, right? I've asked a lot of people a lot smarter than me what they think, and you kind of always get a different answer from everyone. My 2 cents is that I think that real estate is a lagging indicator. So I think that the leading indicators are things that, when you lose your job, you don't go out the next day and fire sale your house. You try and you talk to the mortgage company, see if they'll do a forbearance, hit the pause button for a couple months, go out, try and get a new job. Maybe sell off some things, maybe not eat out quite as much. So I feel like that if the real estate market tends to take a dip, we're still 6 to probably 12 months out. I think it depends on what the unemployment rate looks like when we come out of this whole thing, which who knows when that's going to be. I keep thinking it's going to be in the next couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden the cases, fire back up. So I don't know that if we have 15% unemployment rate coming out of this, something's going to get impacted for sure. And there's going to be a lot of, we got to pay for all these stimuluses and everything that's been, by taxes. So, I think that taxes are probably going to go up. And so I think a combination of a few things could potentially push it to where it starts to slide backwards. How fast, how much, I really don't know. But I think that, like you said, that the market's been resilient, and there's still people out there wanting to buy. And as long as there's that demand, there's still going to be people like you and me and other folks that are, that need good quality, affordable housing. So I think for the time being, I'm just going to, set our company up like it's just another day, and it's just going to stay like it is, and it's going to stay competitive, and just be careful about making sure when we put a certain price point or a projection price point on what we think it'll sell for, try and be conservative. Don't take that one really nice comp that sold that had the pool and the crown molding and use that as your baseline. Use a more conservative approach. So, would it be the worst thing in the world for the market to go down a little bit? In my eyes, probably not. For our, selfishly, it would probably help our business because there would be even less competition. But I still don't think that there's going to be much change this year. So maybe start of next year.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer, and I don't really disagree with much that you've said there. We can certainly agree that real estate is cyclical. It has continuous ups and downs, and obviously the thing is that we've had a 9-year upward cycle. So guys like you and a lot of others have had your entire careers in an upward cycle where prices haven't gone down. I started in real estate in 2005, so I had kind of 4 years or 3.5 years of prices going up, and then they just totally collapsed. And I don't think they're going to totally collapse like they did in 2008 and 9. I think this is very different. But, they're going to go down eventually. Sometimes the ups and downs are very steep. Sometimes they're shallow. And as a real estate investor, you just don't know what it's going to be. All you can do is decide what you want to invest now, decide what your reserves are going to be, and just stay active and stay learning. What's your thoughts on how you're very much on the front line? How do you deal with the increased uncertainty that's out there now? Because you've got your strategies, but you've also got your money, and you want to keep you want to keep that money safe. You want to keep that capital safe. How do you decide what to deploy and what to kind of keep in your back pocket?
I think the easy answer to that is that when it's more uncertainty, is I'm going to wholesale heavy and rehab not minimally. If the market were to crash tomorrow, I look at my board. We've got 2 properties we're rehabbing right now. So, I wouldn't get caught with my pants down if we had to, continue the rehabs and sell them. So I don't want to, I guess my answer is I don't want to have any more than 2 rehabs going at any one time right now. And I want to be wholesale heavy, get in, get out. I know I won't make as much, but I'm also going to be, if things do start to slide backwards, then we're going to be well prepared, because we're not going to get stuck with 8 or 10 houses that are all in rehabs. You hear the horror stories from 2007, 2008. So I'm not going to let that happen. I don't like rehabbing 5 or 6 houses at a time anyways, because it's not something I enjoy. So it makes it really simple for me. You guys are like gluttons for punishment with your 8 to 10 houses that you'll rehab at any one time. But for me, I don't speak that language. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy picking out colors of tiles at Home Depot and things of that nature. So if I can keep it to 1 or 2 rehabs at a time, I think that,
Yeah.
we'll be okay.
Well, we were at 15 to 20 rehabs at a time, but it's lower now. And in terms of the tiles, the trick is just to put the same tile
Right.
in every
Yeah.
single
You're
house,
right.
so you
I
don't
know.
need to worry about it.
Right. Right.
But I would agree with you. I mean, there's, when things are good, you can be a lot more gung ho, and that
Right.
means putting in more offers, buying more houses, being a little bit more ambitious with your after repair values, being a little bit more ambitious with your comps, with the amount of leverage you're taking on, with the speed you're generally going through things, and your assumptions on how long you're going to hold them. And you really got to reel a lot of that back when you feel like the market is approaching the top, and possibly even falling. And I would also add to that people might want to consider staying away from heavy lifting houses. And you mentioned that more wholesaling and less fix and flips, and that's kind of part of it. Another part of it is avoiding the outliers, avoiding the
Yeah.
houses that are 50% bigger than everything else, or
Yeah.
40 years older than everything else, or on a busy intersection, or neighbors next door that are, junk hoarders with Rottweilers. I mean, just stay away from the difficult houses, stay away from the 1920s houses that need a gut job, and target the 1980s ones that need, paint and carpet and some kitchen cabinets, just easy stuff like that. And you're a lot less likely, to get caught out with your pants down, as you said. So, you can't sit on your hands and do nothing, but there's a lot you can do to protect your capital,
Yeah.
and kind of keep your ears a little close to the ground, and just tone back a little bit on the all action kind of stuff that we've probably been doing, and I've been guilty of, the last 3-4 years. And it's you get away with it and you get rewarded for it
Yeah.
during a boom. But if you don't know how to slow down, or when to slow down, and pull your reins in a little, you can really lose a lot of what you've gained. So
Yeah.
it's not easy, because like you said, very smartly, real estate is a lagging indicator. It doesn't grind to a halt just because the stock market drops 5 or 10%, or just because the coronavirus cases and deaths spike, or just because unemployment spikes by 3 or 4 million. It doesn't happen like that. If you're deciding, and you don't stop a flipping or a wholesaling business from one day to the next either, or slow it down from one day to the next. You have to do it in advance of it actually happening if you want to avoid getting caught out. So it's a very difficult, very, very difficult balance to have, where your instinct is to keep going and to keep making money. um, Kind of stopping that, and kind of slowing down a bit isn't easy. But anybody that's been through a couple of cycles, and especially people that have lost money in a couple of cycles, will have the scars from that, and will kind of avoid making the same mistake again. And kind of with that in mind, what advice would you have, for less experienced investors out there, about building a real estate business, whether it's wholesaling or flipping or anywhere else? What kind of tips do you have for them? Just general tips, common sense tips, firstly, but also just tips for trading during the next couple of years, when the outlook is going to be a little more foggy than normal.
Yeah, I think that the number one reason why small businesses fail in the United States is cash flow. So I think that if you're going to think about getting into wholesaling, I think an easier barrier of entry is to I think part of the problem is everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to be a business owner. It just sounds cool. And I think that we let our egos get in the way sometimes. And I think that really makes it very hard to succeed, at least in this business, without some decent amount of capital to give you a start. I remember the second deal I ever flipped, we lost 27,000, and it was the second deal we ever did. So if I didn't have $27,000 plus, savings and things like that, I would have been done after the second deal. And it's because I made every mistake you could think of, and I only underestimated the budget by about 2/3. So I estimated a $25,000 budget, and it ended up being like 70. And I picked the wrong contract. I mean, every mistake you could have made, I made. So I think that if you're going to just come in and you got a couple $1,000s in your pocket and you want to just start wholesaling deals, I mean, it's gonna be tough because you have to market, you have to spend money, going around and knocking on doors, you know, scouring neighborhoods looking for that. It's such an inefficient. There's so many more efficient ways to find distressed housing as opposed to just walking around neighborhoods. It's just kind of like we were talking about. It's just old school stuff that, in my opinion, isn't a good use of time. So I think you're better off trying to find a more established company and go learn or earn while you learn, and get underneath, provide value to a wholesale company, to a rehabber, to whoever, and work for them for a while, and take notes. It's not crazy to go copy their homework, but learn while you're making some money and making the company money. And I think you'll have a much better chance of saving money up and then trying to go out on your own, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I don't like my job, I don't really have any savings, I'm just going to go quit and start wholesaling deals. Because if you don't wholesale one in the first 30 to 45 days, you're probably out of business to begin with, and you never even got a fair shot. So I think that a big part of it is ego, in terms of just, it's cool to say you own your own company, when in reality that doesn't mean anything at all. So just my 2 cents
No,
on that.
it doesn't. And that makes a lot of sense. And I would certainly discourage anybody from quitting their day job and being a wholesaler or any other kind of real estate investor until they've got a proven business model. And that involves more than getting lucky on one or two
Right.
deals. It involves, having systems and processes and a track record in place. Because, really, if you have a W-2 job, uh, you can work harder. I mean, just add another 20 hours or 25 hours onto your week for 3 months, for six
Right.
months. It's a lot better to do that than just quit the job you don't like and start,
Yep.
you know, it's very, very high risk. I mean, probably two and five will get away with it. And that's the two and five that are very prepared and lucky. And the other three and five will just lose their shirts and end up
Yeah.
looking for another job and securing an even worse job than the one they left. I like your idea of tagging onto a bigger company for a year or two to learn from, or whether it's a bigger wholesaling company or a flipping company or just some experienced investor that can show you the ropes and act as a kind of a mentor for you in exchange for your time and energy. And people have gone on to create big businesses on their own from that, and they might have started painting walls or,
Right.
or driving for dollars or knocking on doors, but they're doing what they were told by someone else who had systems and processes, and they learned from it. So yeah, be ambitious by all means, and kind of try and make money in real estate. There's going to be a ton of opportunities in real estate in the next few years, but just be very careful about kind of gambling everything on an uncertain outcome. There's no reason why you can't continue doing your job and just work harder or start with another company. I mean, look, if you're a successful executive and you've got like a deep pool of savings and rental properties, that's a different thing. But if you're some young kind of hustler starting out, or if you're a young family man or something starting out, you want to be a lot more careful with your time and money. So there are ways of getting involved, and you don't need to be in such a panic to make lots of money the first year. It's a little bit of patience and thought will probably earn you more money in the medium to long run.
I think you mentioned like a tip. I see, there's so many different real estate message boards on social media and blogs and all and everything. There's so many different, there's creative financing and the BRR groups and the fix and flip groups and just the general real estate groups. I can't tell you how many times I see people that are like, look, I'm just getting started. What should I know? What should I do? Does someone want to mentor me? And I can guarantee you that it's going to be very hard to get a response, because all you're doing is saying, give me, give me, give me. And, I don't want to provide any value. So, I think an easy tip would be is that if you want to get started in this industry, the easiest way is to go reach out to the people that are actually doing deals, whether they're wholesaling them or rehabbing them or keeping them as rentals. It doesn't really matter, is to go and say, look, I'd love to get started. What can I do to help you grow your business? And I think that simple question, what value can I bring to your business, is a much better starter than, hey, would you mind mentoring me? I noticed this other guy was doing $1,500 a month. Could I just follow you around for free for 6 months? It's just, so it's an easy way to say, look, I want to get in this business. How can I help you grow your business? What can I do for you? And that's a great way to get started. And a lot of people are going to be open to that, in terms of, maybe they didn't have a position open, but I don't know, you seem like a go-getter. You seem like you want to go out and hustle. Let's see if I can find you something to do.
Hmm. That's it. If you show that energy and enthusiasm, and you might have some skills that other businesses lacking. You might be coming from the corporate world and you've got some really good data skills or analysis skills that you can apply to somebody that's got a lot more knowledge about fixing houses rather than analyzing acquisitions. So you could be surprised as to what you might bring to it as well. But energy, enthusiasm, open mind, and just being willing to try anything and do anything and not have the attitude of, well, I don't want to do that, or that's not my job. Just kind of leave that stuff at the door when you're walking into to learn about real estate, because you have to be open to literally doing anything to learn. And once you've learned and once you're building something, then it's a whole other thing. Now you're trying to delegate and you're trying to focus on your time on that kind of profitable 20% and outsourcing the other 80%. But that's stuff for another podcast, I think.
That's the most. I thought when I got into flipping houses, the hardest part would be figuring out, how to analyze a deal or how to fix up a property. Little did I know that was the easy part. The hard part is doing the 20% and outsourcing the 80. So I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. This has been a lot of fun, Clark. I've enjoyed this conversation. If anybody wants to reach out to you to say hello or ask you any questions, do you have any easy ways of people doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love just shooting the breeze about real estate. I can sit here for the next 3 hours and shoot the shit on just about anything dealing with real estate. You can just ask my wife and she'll confirm that. So you can email me at clark.lunt, LUNT, at easy, spelled out EASY, sale, HQ.com. Facebook, Instagram at easy sale HQ is our Facebook and Instagram name. And and we're always looking for people to join our team as well too. So if you have any interest and you're a hustler and a grinder, we're at a point right now where we're continuing to grow and kind of busting at the seams. So it's exciting times.
Brilliant. Well, I'll definitely put that information on the show notes, Clark. And thanks again for your time. I'll look forward to catching up with you again soon. And you hang in there and keep hustling, keep earning money. You're doing great.
You're the man, Colin. Appreciate it, buddy. See ya.
So there you go, guys. That was show number 2 with my buddy Clark Lunt. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought we covered some pretty interesting topics there about the role wholesalers play, about the real estate market today, some interesting and actionable tips for people trying to get into the wholesaling market, some of the challenges and opportunities facing wholesalers and flippers. And I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. If you're able to show your support with a subscribe or a 5-star review or a quick written review, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you think some of your friends or family members would enjoy this type of content, I would certainly appreciate it if you could share it with them through social media or email or word of mouth, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm trying to get the word out there. I'll be back next week with show number 3. It's going to be with Graham Parham of Highlands Mortgages. He's got some fantastic insights into the loan market and how it's affecting the real estate market and the wider economy. There's a lot of good stuff coming on show number 3, so tune in for that. But that's it for me today. Show 2 is done. I'm Colin G. Murphy signing out. You guys take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.